Blog Talk Radio.
The funeral is about to begin, sir.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding? Till all thy death, so thy love.
Once again, welcome back to another episode of The Calling Hours on Horror Society Radio. This is your host, the Dead Man, Michael Jones, one of the feature writers over at HorrorSociety.com. We want to welcome you to another show this evening. It's kind of going to be jam-packed, so it's going to be a lot this evening. This evening's guests in our Indie Spotlight, we're going to have producer Robert Zobel joining us to talk about Crinoline Head 2. The fundraiser's up for, I think, almost 2 more weeks. And these guys are down there from the South Carolina area. That's where my sister is. I might have to go down and say hello and figure out what's going on. In our main interview, we're going to continue on with our theme from last week with the Women in Horror Month. Rebekah Herzberg will be joining us again. We will also have B.J. Colangelo joining us, Tiffany Shepis, Rebecca McKendry, and Heidi Honeycutt. So I think that'll be a very interesting discussion, and we'll get to hear more on what Women in Horror Month is for and what they feel like we can do in the industry to help create a little bit more equality between the men and the women. In our Metal Blade Spotlight this evening, we are going to have Down Among the Dead Men. They're short. Their songs are a little short, so we'll be playing a double shot when we do our Indie Spotlight. We will also be doing 2 DVD reviews this evening. In our Scream Factory Blu-ray Spotlight, we will be talking about Die Monster Die, which it was just absolutely amazing. I had never seen it before, but it, based on the works of Lovecraft and everything, I mean, it's absolutely an amazing movie, and I still think would hold up very well today. We will also be reviewing Artsploitation Films' Memory of the Dead, and as a matter of fact, that's what we're going to start off with this evening. So I saw a post online about this movie, Memory of the Dead, and I decided to get in contact with the good people at Artsploitation Films, and they sent me a copy. The director of this film was Valentin Javier Dement. It was produced by Dement and Hernan Findling. Special effects were Rebecca Martinez, Franco Bernardi, and Leonardo Buri Bustos. The cast includes Gabriel Goiti, Lola Berthet, Matias Morato, Rafael Ferro, Anna Celatone, and Flora Groh. And the actual street date on this film will be February 25th of this year. And kind of just to give you the premise of the film so you know what you're getting into, reminiscent of the finer works of Dario Argento with its spectacular set pieces, Valentin Javier Dement's Memory of the Dead mixes eye-popping visuals with wicked black comedy to create one of the most memorable supernatural shockers in years. a recent widow, played by Lola Berthet, garnished her husband's closest friends at her country home for a memorial service, but her intentions aren't quite as noble as they seem. Soon, the gathered mourners are beset upon by an onslaught of ghosts and demons from their pasts. Grieving is hard, but surviving the night is even harder. Packed with gore, terror, tongue-in-cheek humor, and a healthy dose of sex, Memory of the Dead is a must-see for fans of wildly fun international horror. And, you know, I got to tell you straight out, I really enjoyed the film. Foreign films can be very hit or miss for some people, whether it's because they can't watch a film and read subtitles at the same time, or maybe it's just that the cultural subtexts do not translate over properly. In the case of Memory of the Dead, I feel the cultural subtext may not have translated as well, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for this film. When I got the DVD for review and I read the back, I was really expecting a gore and comedy along the lines of Peter Jackson's Dead Alive or Bad Taste. The gore is really well placed and not overly abused, and it certainly hits its marks. But I failed to find any comedy in the film. And again, as I said, I think that works for this film. Dement as a director certainly earns the praise that is heaped on the film for its Argento-like use of color and camera angles. And to go hand in hand with that, I mean, there were several times, the uses of the greens and the blues, the reds, reminded me very much of Argento's Suspiria. And I feel like, a lot of the camera work was very similar as well. So, in that sense, it eased me in because it was an element that I was comfortable with, being such a big fan of Argento. But not only that, I think the cast and the crew really put it out there too. They do bring a strange and powerful performances to the screen. The twists and turns in the film are really good. The ending is kind of shocking. I definitely didn't see it going where it went, but again, I really feel like that's to the film's credit. We didn't get the same cookie cutter ending that we get from most horror films, so it was nice to get a shock ending. It was released to standard definition DVD, and I think that was a good choice for the film as well. As most of you know, I'm not the biggest fan of digital effects works. I never have been. But the film's quality lends very well to the blending of the CGI and the practical effects in this film. So you don't ever feel like what you're watching is just overdone computer art. It's certainly worth picking up and watching, so make sure to keep an eye on Dement in the future as a director. And basically, I don't want to spoil it too much. I really think this, part of what this film's allure is the story. But what we get is Alicia and George start the movie off walking down the road, and Alice sees Jorge jump into the pool with no water in it, and just basically cracking his head open, and he gets up out of the pool and does it again, and the second time he does it, his head basically explodes, and she wakes up from a nightmare, obviously. And then she realizes that Jorge's in the bed dying. Well, he dies. She invites their closest friends for a memorial service, 3 months later. And as the movie progresses and goes on, you find out that this is the one night of the year with the love of 6 friends. He can find his way back. They'll be safe as long as they stay in the house. Well, things really start to turn south, and members of the party wind up becoming murdered, and there's definitely more of an insidious plot. I don't want to give away too much. A lot of people may think it's a derivative of The Evil Dead, and I definitely want to go out there and tell you this right now. I don't feel like it's a ripoff of The Evil Dead. There are certainly elements that will remind you of several genre films out there, but I think this takes it in a little bit different direction. Like I said, the ending is certainly surprising. But, again, a very enjoyable film. In terms of bonus features, what we got a bunch of trailers And, those aren't bad, too. We had the trailer for Memory of the Dead. There's a trailer for Hidden in the Woods that's directed by Patricio Valadares. Really looking forward to that one. Horror Stories trailer, directed by several different directors on that one. That one looks like it has a lot of potential, too. Toad Road, directed by Jason Banker. Kind of looks like one of those revenge kind of flicks. Almost in a Day of the Woman type thing. It definitely looks like it has some potential. And then there's also the trailer for Wither, directed by Sonny Lugana and Tommy Wickland. And I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out as well. But overall, I think our exploitation film should be saluted for bringing us something fresh from Argentina. The company is not strictly a genre label. Exploitation Films looks for intriguing, unsettling, unpredictable, and provocative films from all around the world. Like I said, I was certainly surprised when I watched the movie and saw that it was in standard definition. But as I said it before, it really works out for this film. The artwork for the DVD is really nice. I would actually love to own a poster of that. If Matt Berry out there is listening, Matt, maybe you can help me out, or at least point me in the right direction on that. The sound and picture are nice and fresh, and it has that slight grain to it that gives the film more of a surreal look. Again, kind of like that nod to Argento's Suspiria and things like that. The use of the digital effects in the film, again, as I said, blend very nicely. There's a cadre of thought-provoking trailers. It definitely shows you there's a lot of stuff that's on the indie circuit that's not just American, but just independent, that looks like it could be worth checking out. There's really nothing, there's nothing on there in terms of special features. Maybe later on down the line, if there was anything filmed, it would be nice. I would love to see love to speak to the effects artist and the director, some of the actors, to get their thought on it. But as far as that goes, those are definitely minor things. I would definitely recommend going out and picking this up if you're looking for something foreign and independent. I give it a 3.5 out of 5 in terms of the movie rating, and the DVD overall DVD rating is a 7 out of 10. So I would definitely go out and check this out. Again, the street date on that is February the 25th. When we come back, we're going to talk about our independent spotlight. We'll talk a minute about our guests that are coming up. So, to start it off, we're going to do a double shot. The name of the band is Down Among the Dead Men. The name of the album is Down Among the Dead Men. And the first song we're going to play is Dead Man's Switch.
For the
welcome back to the Calling Hours on Horse Society Radio. That was, excuse me, that was Down Among the Dead Men, off of the album Down Among the Dead Men. That was a double shot. The first song was Dead Men Diaries, and the second song, the first song was Dead Man Switch. The second song was Dead Men Diaries. I think you can see why I'm into these guys. A lot of songs with Dead Man in the title. I can dig it. But just to let you guys know, in the first segment, we reviewed Artsploitation Films' Memory of the Dead. I highly recommend you run out and get this, especially those of you that love foreign horror films. Definitely worth picking up. Towards the end of the show, we are going to be reviewing Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Die Monster Die with Boris Karloff, and man, was that fun to watch. An H.P. Lovecraft story that was based off of was, I just had it, The Color Out of Space. And I have to admit, I've not read that story, but now I really want to. But in a moment, we should be joined by one of the producers from the upcoming Crinoline Head. And that would be producer Robert Zobel. So when he calls in, we will begin our indie spotlight and find out what's going on with that production. And at about 8:35, I guess, we're going to have Rebekah Herzberg back on with Women in Horror Month. And we have a bevy of intelligent women in the horror industry joining us this evening. Not only will we have B.J. Colangelo calling in, we will also have Tiffany Shepis, Rebecca McKendry, and if she can make it home before work, Heidi Honeycutt. So we're definitely going to have a lot to talk about there. And I'm really looking forward to having them on to really tell us a little bit more about what Women in Horror Month is. But right now, we are going to start our interview with the producer of Crinoline Head 2, and that is producer Robert Zobel. Robert, how are you this evening?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm fine, man. Well, tell us how a sequel to Crinoline Head even came about, first of all.
Well, I think the director, Tommy Faircloth, is trying to get his name back into the scene. So, of course, he started out with The Cabin, which came out in June of 2013, and, just trying to dabble back into it, and now he's going full force back into it. Excuse me, with Crinoline Head 2.
Now, you guys definitely have some interesting cast members. You have Debbie Rochon. You have Jason Vale.
Yeah, Jason will be joining us again, and we also have Christian James, who's a newcomer to the field, but Jason's worked with him a lot, so we're looking forward to having Christian James, John Kath, I don't know if you've heard of him, and, of course, Morgan Moaning will be also joining us a little bit, too.
Now, how excited are you for this cast? I mean, this is a pretty good cast you've got going on this. How did you reach out to them and let them know about the project, and, what kind of excitement have they brought to the whole thing?
Yeah, we kind of just reached out to Debbie to see if, this would be something she'd be interested in. And, of course, Tommy, has been talking with her back and forth. Not too sure how all that's worked out, but that's what Tommy's doing. But she seems really excited to work on it. And, of course, Jason's helps for anything. He's a really great guy. He's excited to work on it as well. And John Kath, he's done a few horror things, but he's definitely going to make quite a character in the movie. He's 6'8", very tall, big guy, so he's a menacing character for sure.
Now, what is the fan response been to the sequel? A lot of times, fans clamor for sequels, and you always see petitions. We want to see this. We want to see that. What has the base audience said so far?
The audience reaction is really good so far. You either really loved Crinoline Head or you really hated it. People thought it was terrible or either, thought it was crazy awesome. But Crinoline Head 2 is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be, still have the very comedic relief of kill scenes, but it's also going to take a little bit deeper or darker tone to it. But it's going to be a little bit different.
Now, tell us how Tommy became involved. Tommy Fairchild.
Tommy Faircloth,
Faircloth. I'm sorry.
That's all right. He did Crinoline Head 1, Crinoline Head, which was about 18 years ago. He also did Generation X, which was the second feature film. Kind of dropped out of the movie-making scene for about 18 years. But I guess his interest perked back up, and he's really trying to dive back into it.
Now, tell us a little bit about the fundraiser you guys have going on Indiegogo.
Sure. We've had a fundraiser. I think it's been going for about 20 days or so. We've got about 19 days left on it. We're just trying to raise as much funds as we can to, get this off the ground and running. The more we have, the better it's going to be. So, all of our fans are helping out great, and we really appreciate the help so far, but we still have a long way to go. So, trying to do that.
Go ahead.
I said you can reach, our Indiegogo campaign by going to Indiegogo and searching Crinoline Head. Of course, you can go to www.igg.me /@ and /Crinoline Head 2, and that's directly to the fundraising page.
All right. Now, tell people about some of the perks that you guys are offering.
Sure. I mean, we have tons of perks. We have, anything from $10 to, $5,000, $10,000 perks. You can, get your name shout out on Facebook. That's probably our lowest perk we have. We have, you can create kill scenes. You can have producer credits. You can be in the movie, get speaking roles. So there's a whole lot going on there. You can get.
Now, what do you find to be the most interesting aspect of this film? As far as sequels go, a lot of times you have the regular plot of, okay, you kill the killer at the end of the first movie, boom, it's supernatural, he's just back from the dead. What's going to separate Crinoline Head 2 from the rest of the standard slasher fare that we see out there these days?
I just think our creative kill scenes, for sure. There's some pretty interesting things going to happen. Crinoline Head 2, some pretty gross things. Let me just
so you guys aren't worried. You guys aren't worried about rating then. I mean, you're going to go all out then.
Oh yeah. There's some definitely creative kill scenes that I think a lot of people will find disgusting, or they're very comedic. So we'll see.
Now, who are you guys looking to have head up your special effects, or is that something you can talk about yet?
No, I'm not. To be honest with you, I'm not sure. That's kind of all still hasn't been planned out yet. We're going to try to aim to shoot at the end of May, so last week in May in Charleston, South Carolina. So I'm not sure we've ironed all that out yet. Of course, Tommy does a lot of his own stuff. He's pretty good at editing and doing all himself, but I'm sure we'll definitely have some help in that area as well.
So the primary shooting location will be Charleston, South Carolina. Are you guys looking to shoot anywhere else in that area?
Well, we have a few spots all over the state. I mean, we've kind of scouted out a couple places we want to shoot. Driving by, we've seen an old building. We're like, it'd be awesome to shoot there. Use that. So we're going to try to use that to our advantage, but primarily in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay, now are you guys primarily based out of South Carolina? I mean, in terms of that's where you live, that's where you work?
Oh, yeah. We live in Columbia, South Carolina, but we kind of shoot all over South Carolina. Our most recent short film, The Cabin, was shot in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Okay.
It's funny, my sister and her husband live in Lexington. So I come down to that part of that. I come down there all the time. I might have to, if it's all right with you guys, I'd love to come down and do something on set, for
sure,
Horror Society,
definitely.
do a write-up or something.
Yeah,
well, now,
we enjoy that.
You talk about, now, like we had talked, you had mentioned you had filmed some in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee. And North Carolina is very much a hotbed for film because, we have the school down at UNC Wilmington. There's been a lot of filming in Raleigh and stuff like that, but you don't hear so much about stuff coming out of South Carolina. Kind of tell us a little bit about the scene down there in South Carolina. And, like I saw the pictures on Tommy's Facebook, did you guys actually put up a billboard in Columbia?
Oh, no. That's an application you can use on your phone to to create a billboard.
Because I was like, wow, these guys are going all out.
No, the film scene here, it's kind of weird, but I mean it's a good film scene. It's hard to get going in South Carolina.
Right. Well, you figure being so close to the university, you would draw a lot of students for stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but we don't really. I don't know. It's hard with horror because horror is so different than your mainstream filming.
Sure.
So it's really hard around here to actually get your name out there, to get your festivals. Matter of fact, we're doing a film festival in Charleston in April called the Crimson Screen Horror Film Festival. And that's kind of something we started just because there's no outlet for horror here in South Carolina. So, I mean, it's come and go.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the festival then, since you guys are involved with it. I mean, do you have filmmakers come in? Is it kind of like a convention style? How are you guys looking at putting it all together?
Well, this is the first year of it, so we're kind of just getting our feet in the water with it. But it is, I think we had probably over 80 submissions so far in films, anywhere from Moldova, Italy, all over the United States. But we've had a really, really good response. Most of the films that have gotten in so far that we've announced, the filmmakers are actually coming. So it's going to be interesting. And so,
are you guys still looking for submissions?
Yeah, submissions are open until March. So we're accepting anything.
Please, well, I mean, if you want, I have a lot of the people that listen to the show are people in the industry, a lot of independent filmmakers. Horror Society prides itself on trying to be the voice of independent horror. So please, if you have an address or an email contact that you need people to send that to, please give it.
Yeah, you can actually go to our website. It's crimsonscreenfilmfest.com, and for accepting application or submissions until March 1st. It's in April 19th and 20th in Charleston, South Carolina.
Very nice. Well, I mean, thank you for coming on. I definitely want to have you and Tommy on. We can do a full-length show once you guys have done some filming. That way you can talk about the film some more. Like I said, I would love to come down. South Carolina is nothing for me to drive to. I would love to come down to set one day, cover for Horror Society. So we'll set all that up.
All right. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's no problem, Robert, and I'll make sure and put something up on Horror Society about the Indiegogo project.
Yeah, and we'll send you also some stuff about the film festival.
Excellent. Please do, and I'll get all that up.
That sounds good.
All right, man. Thank you.
Have a good one.
And once again, that was producer Robert Zobel of the upcoming Crinoline Head 2 shooting down in South Carolina. I will have to go down there and visit my sister and see if they want any help with the day for effects and do a write-up for the page. So I will keep everyone updated on that project when it comes up. In a few minutes, we're going to have Rebekah Herzberg starting off our interview campaign this evening. We're going to talk some more Women in Horror Month. But until then, we're going to go into our next set with Down Amongst the Dead Men in our Metal Blade Spotlight. The name of the song is A Handful of Dust. and welcome back. That was Down Among the Dead Men off of the album Down Among the Dead Men. The song was A Handful of Dust. But now we are joined once again by our fellow co-host, Rebekah Herzberg. Miss Rebekah, how are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Well, you know, tonight we really get into the meat of what Women in Horror Month is all about. We're going to be joined this evening, of course, by B.J. Colangelo, Tiffany Shepis, Rebecca McKendry, and if she can make it in, Heidi Honeycutt. So before we have everyone on here, let me see what you have to say, you know, your experiences with women in horror and what you think it's done so far for women in the industry.
Well, right now, you know, as I said last week, I'm just one of the ambassadors. I am not on the board, you know, but, you know, it really has meant a lot to me over the past few years, and it definitely, like, honestly, I don't think that I would have had enough guts to even get behind the camera and start working on my own film if it wasn't for this movement. Because, right. I mean, you know, there really aren't that many women behind the camera, and even if people think that my movie sucks and they don't like it, you know, it's at least I can say, hey, I tried and I did that. And so that's what they do, you know, they're trying to bring in more women, even if it's, you know, it's just women doing what we love. We love horror films, too. It's not just the guys that love horror films. And,
you know, and I can kind of dig that sentiment. Back when I first started writing, you know, if you can call it professionally, but for as long as I've been writing, you know, in the beginning I did film review and stuff like that, and, you know, I would critique a film, and it just hit me one day, you know, who am I to judge what anyone else has made if I've never done it myself? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I went out and I did effects and some acting on several films, and now I feel like, you know, when I talk about a movie, you know, I feel like, I have the background to speak on things, and I found that I'm not as harsh because I know what it takes now to do it. Do you feel the same way? I mean, being a, you know...
I don't think that you have to, you know, I respectfully disagree. I do not think that you have to have your own experience with making horror films in order to judge them. People know what they're getting into. They're putting these films out there. They know that people are going to say, hey, I think this movie sucks, or hey, you know, I really enjoyed this. And I do consider myself a harsh critic, but then again, I adore a lot of the, like, terrible horror films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s and still collect them on VHS. And if I try to show them to my friends, they're like, dude, you got some bad taste in movies. You know? And I'm just like, well, you know, I like them. So everyone's different, though. That's the thing. No one can say what is the worst horror film ever made. You know, it's all our own opinion. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean that you're not going to like it as well.
Sure. But I guess where I'm going from, like, my sister noticed this. She had a small part in one of the films I worked on, and I tell people, you can watch a movie as there's no other way to put it. As an everyday regular person, you can watch a movie, and we all view media a certain way. But once I worked on a film and saw how it was done firsthand, now when I watch film, I see movies completely differently now than before I'd worked on one. Is it the same for you?
Not really. Like,
I mean,
I've worked on a few, and like even before I've had these small parts on these recent horror films, like I worked on student films for a while, and for me it was just, I don't know, I look at it differently. For me also, it's just all about having fun. I'm just like, I don't care if I become, you know, like I'm not trying to become the next big actress or filmmaker or whatever. Like for me, I just love horror so much. I'm just there to have fun. But that's also something I try to take into consideration whenever I write about these films. I think about, wow, that looks like, even though it looks terrible on the screen, it looks like it was a lot of fun to make.
Right. And it looks like we are now being joined by B.J. Colangelo. B.J., is that you?
Yes, it is. Hi.
Great. Thank you for coming back on. I definitely want to expand on what we had started last week, so I am glad that you came on.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
And for those of you that don't know, BJ has a very thought-provoking blog called Day of the Woman. You should definitely go and check that out. BJ, let me ask you this: how did you get into writing your blog, and how did the focus become? I'm trying to think of how I want to say it. How did it become so female-centric?
I started writing the site when I was only 18 years old, and I was honestly trying to find a way to keep myself from going absolutely insane, living in a dorm room in a college in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. And one of the first people who ever read my site was Brian Solomon of The Vault of Horror. I'm not sure if he's still writing.
Oh, I love that site.
Yeah, he reached out to me. I had probably only written 3 or 4 things, and he found out, not only that I was so young, but also that I was a girl and I wasn't kind of the traditional, I guess, type of girl, even though there's no such thing as a type of horror fan. I think that's ridiculous. But, I was, this baton twirler from my university, and I'd been doing beauty pageants, and he's like, that's so not typical of what we see. You should really focus on writing from that angle. And, at first it was kind of a shtick, kind of a, hey, no one else is doing this, look at what I can do sort of thing. And then as I got older and matured more and became more aware of, the grounds of film theory and gender theory in films, I became fascinated with the different perceptions, especially given the fact that most horror films are from a male perspective, and the way that it's, when you don't have women behind the camera or women writing movies, then you're constantly going to have films coming from the same vision. And with horror, it's predominantly, white male vision. And I wanted to explore these different visions. Like, why is a film like American Psycho different from your typical run-of-the-mill serial killer film? Well, different perspectives on how to interpret text because it's a woman.
Thank you.
Like, I think that that's fantastic. And I think it's fascinating, and I don't think enough people at the time were discussing it. Obviously now with things like Women in Horror Month, everybody takes the time to really try to tune in to that different perspective and really try to get a better understanding. And ultimately, I think that's what Women in Horror Month is about, is to gain an understanding on the minority sex and why we love horror, why our love, may be the same, what makes it different. I think that those are all important discussions to have, and that's sort of what I try to do with Day of the Woman.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Well, I'll be the first one to sit there and agree with you if you go back through, any time of period, but we could specifically talk the 60s, 70s, 80s, where in horror, women, films definitely had more of a misogynist tone to them. The women were always depicted a certain way, sex, murder, violence, all of that stuff. But ultimately, in the end, 99% out of the time, the woman winds up being, for lack of a better term, the victor. She wins. She survives. Now,
well, I think
in a lot of those films
on is
right.
What type of girl is the one that's surviving? We're getting the typically brunette. Obviously, there are the exceptions there, but there are ultimately more brunette final girls than there are blonde girls. And if the final girl is a brunette, then the blonde girl usually is, her,
the whorish
friend. So it kind of perpetuates the idea that yes, this woman can survive. But
whatever, the whore can easily survive too.
Exactly. But that's where, yes, the final girl, the woman is the victor, but she's the victor because she's pure, because she follows the rules.
Yeah.
We
need more horror films that end with, like, the characters. It's okay to not like any of the characters you see on film, it's okay. Like in the show Girls, it has nothing to do with horrors, but they've always said, hey, it's okay not to like these characters. We don't either, but still, in the end, it would be nice to see a character that we don't even like, survive in the end. It'd at least be different.
Yes, I agree. I want to see something different, and especially with my final roles, I want to see, there's even the joke in Cabin in the Woods when they get, to the girl, and she's like, oh, I'm not a virgin. Goes, oh, well, we make do with what we have. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I understand wanting to perpetuate the pure virgin. I get it, patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. That's an entirely different discussion. But the fact that nobody wants to buck from those traditions, and when they do, they're either met with harsh criticism for not following the rules, or they may not have the money to get them made. And I get it. Doing, what's familiar is safe. It's, guaranteed to make money. But come on, originality. Do something different. Get a fat girl. Get a girl in a wheelchair.
Yes.
Do something different. I am so tired of just, it's played out. Just change the record. Do something new.
Okay, I have a film, and I hope that both of you have seen it, and I think it kind of puts a twist on what you're saying. Did you ever see High Tension?
I did see High Tension, and I see where you're going with it. I do, but for
because
the whole
neither girl in that was an innocent girl, especially if you look back through flashback. If you watch the flashback sequences, the brunette in that was she drank, they smoked dope. She was not a virgin. But the thing I'm wondering about that is that the violence in that film was going back to reminiscent of the days of Lucio Fulci films. I mean, the murder sequences and everything that happened. Now, and that was a film made by a man. But my question being is how did you feel about that film? And like you said, you kind of saw where I was going. How do you feel like that style of film holds up to opposed to an American film?
I think
that was a French
it was
film.
Yes, it is, and I think that it's very ambitious. And I will say that European and Japanese cinema, they tend to, I guess, be a little bit more open to new ideas than American films. The only issue that I had with High Tension is that you go through this whole film, and giant spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, you go through the whole film thinking it's a guy, and then at the end it's like, whoops, just kidding, it was a girl the whole time. And I really hate that. I hate the being pulled under the rug. Like, now it's 10 times more shocking because, oh my God, it was a girl. That's impossible. I have the same feeling whenever I watch urban legends. Like, if you're using a reveal as a woman as a scare tactic, or as like a
Sleepaway
Camp reverse. Like, how unbelievable!
Sleepaway Camp reverse.
Right. I think that it's just sad. I mean, historically speaking,
back to. Sorry, go ahead and finish. But
it's okay. I was saying, like, just historically speaking, with true crime, like, women have been proven over the years to be really messed up people when they kill. It's very possible.
Yes, they do. It's retarded.
It's ridiculous. How many times do you turn the news and it's like, woman drowned 5 babies, and it's like, oh, but we can't believe that a woman would go on a kill spree in a horror movie? This bitch just drowned 5 of her own children. What are you talking about? Women are not crazy.
I think everyone's crazy, but I think one of the things BJ was getting at earlier is there's also we're used to seeing the typical hot females casted in a film, and I'm tired of it as well because that's not what a lot of us look like all the time. I think there needs to be a horror film where it's nothing but again, one chick's in a wheelchair, one chick's like 300 pounds running in the woods, and just like
trust me, I'm right there with you. I mean, I miss the days of we'll just throw a title out there. I miss the days of like the old Friday the 13th where for most of them, everybody that was in that movie, you didn't know who the hell they were. You look at movies nowadays, and when you cast Jessica Biel in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, everybody already knows you know,
don't even get me
she's
started
going to
on
live
that
to the
atrocious
end.
remake.
Well, no, we're on the same page, trust me. But I understand your sentiment. You know, when you cast all, you know, these A-list stars to play in the horror movies, you know who's going to live and who's going to die. The element of suspense is gone.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, why do you think there have not been as many opportunities for women in horror? I mean, we've had a few out there every now and then that have shown promise and shine through, but why do you think executives are afraid, though? What is it about a woman making a horror film that is so terrifying to the studios?
My personal opinion, and I will emphasize that it's my personal opinion.
And you can say whatever you want. Don't hold back.
Well, I believe that a lot of it comes down to, and it's not even just, you know, horror has always been kind of the boys' club. And as somebody who has loved horror for their entire life, I know what it feels like to be the weird kid who likes the zombie movies. I get it. So when you have a bunch of boys who are allowed to be together and enjoy this genre for themselves, and it becomes kind of like, you know, they find somewhat of a sense of salvation. There are other men like me who like horror. I'm not this crazy weirdo. So then they get this sense of male camaraderie. Well, then what happens is that you get a girl to show up and say, hey, guys, I like it too. And then it becomes this weird kind of, well, we had a good thing going. Like, I don't want to be an outsider again. It's a scary feeling. Not only that, but then also just the idea that there are a lot of men who can't deal with women in power. So to say, you know, this woman's going to be a director. Well, why is she a director? Why can't I be the director? Why does she get to be a director? And I don't know. I just think that it's a combination of, you know, social factors, and I still don't understand why people don't think that women can do horror. They're like, oh, well, women are squeamish. Do you know what happens to women every month?
Yeah, thank you. No,
I'm
really so disgusted. Like, anytime I'm on my period and the guys are just like, whoever I'm dating, or, you know, now Chris and I have been together for like 3 years, if I even mention that I'm on my period, he's like, gross. You know, or even guys in the past that left war films,
that's
like,
the grossest thing ever. But then you're going to dump buckets of blood on some chick, and that's...
Yeah,
really?
And it's like, I just had a human being come out of my body. Fuck you. Sorry. But no, I agree with BJ. It's a boys' club. It's a boys' club. And growing up in school, it was awkward for me because I grew up in, like, one of those suburban, like, hoity-toity towns. And so it was like all the chicks hated me and thought that I was weird because I liked horror movies. And all the guys thought that I was weird for liking horror films.
Well, I mean, you know, for me, for one, I'll go on the record and saying, you know, I've been married and divorced, so, you know, those topics, I've been there, done that, you know, that doesn't bother me at all. But, you know, I got my break. My first break in the industry came from a female director. I worked with Christine Parker on The Forever Dead. And, you know, it was a really low-budget film, a $10,000 film. We got lucky, and it went on to get picked up by Brain Damaged Films. And, you know, later on,
I love Brain Damage.
You know, Heidi Honeycutt worked with them on A Fistful of Brains, and I was supposed to play the sheriff in that film and do the effects, and that's when my divorce happened, so I never got to work with Heidi. But the point being is, you know, I don't understand that mentality. I was just so happy to be on the set working on a film. It didn't matter to me that it was male, female, or whatever. I don't know, maybe it was just the way that I was raised. I've never understood the sexist mentality of, you know, a woman can't do this or a man can't do that, you know, so on and so forth. But, you know, what kind of film would it take for people, do you feel, to take women directors seriously in the horror genre?
None.
I mean, what's that?
I don't think it would take any film. I think we've already had great films directed by a woman, and, you know, these men, and even a few women who are still just like, oh, well, maybe if y'all would make good horror films. I think there are a lot of great horror films directed by women, and then they'll reply with, oh, okay, so maybe there's like 5, Near Dark and American Psycho and Pet Sematary, and it's just like, not really. There's a lot of good stuff out there that some of you haven't even checked out, and I don't think there's anything really that women can do to really change that. We can try, but they have that mentality instilled in their brain, so it's... Go ahead, BJ.
Yeah, the mentality is always going to exist. There's always going to be, because there are so many wonderful men out there that do believe in women directors that aren't sexist assholes, that are just wonderful people, and I would never, ever deny that they exist. However, there are a lot of people that don't see that way, and they tend to speak the loudest. And I think we're only going to see a real change, unfortunately, because it's the filmmaking industry, when some big money is brought into it, when a woman directs something, like The Purge, that comes on a really low budget and then makes a ton of money to show that women directors are profitable. Because as far as like big time, mainstream horror, the last one was the Carrie remake, and everybody hated it, and that had a female director. And now, what was the fault of the director, what was the fault of producers, we will never know. But until we have a big successful hit like that, the idea that, women are only as good as independents or whatever is going to continue to happen. But I don't think we will ever fully be, quote unquote equals, at least not in my lifetime, because if you look at the struggle of anybody, any minority group, and it doesn't matter how much time passes, there will always be idiot people who speak very loudly in negative tones.
Well, now let me ask you both this: what scream queen? And we can go back to Barbara Steele. We can go up to current women like Devaney Penn, or we can even put Tiffany's name in there. What scream queen do you feel like epitomized the character of woman best?
Camille Keaton.
Mine's a tie between Camille and Nancy, because neither of them lucked into their survival. I know a lot of people like to say, Laurie Strode, ultimate scream queen. Laurie Strode got lucky. She hid around her house and got lucky that, Lula shows up with a gun. Nancy Thompson and Camille Keaton both plotted. They both, came up with ideas for survival, and they executed them. I would throw Erin into the mix from Your Next, except for they dropped the whole, she's only smart because she went to survival camp, as they're lives on a survival commune. Well, damn it. Why did you do that? But for the other two characters, these were women that said, okay, this is a bad thing that's happening. How can I fix this? I have ideas. Now let's execute them. That is what I like to see in my quote-unquote final girls.
Okay, well now, just to expand on that then, since you brought up Laurie Strode, I'll grant you Halloween 1 and 2. But now when they went back and did H2O and the one after that, what did you what did you think of the progression of her character? Because certainly in H2O, Laurie Strode went from being a victim to she went on the attack.
Right, and I do agree, that the progression of her character is definitely an admirable one. However, it took her 20 years to get there. I'm not going to say, congratulations, you succeeded, but the other thing to keep in mind is that it took a 20-year progression, and the way that films became more formulaic in those 20 years, your final girl had to be a badass. Once you throw Sidney Prescott into the mix, who's, another one running.
Don't even get me started. I can't stand her. I'm sorry. It's like, just kill her.
Not a fan.
Please just kill her.
No, I understand. I'm not a fan of her character, but once that became, a character that, the non-horror fans, the general populace, I should say, had seen, then you have to start catering your characterizations of your final girls towards that, because that's what makes money. And ultimately, Halloween H2O was made for money. So how do you make money? You have a badass chick. Laurie Strode may have been kind of whatever during her first two movies, but now it's Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's a badass. So, I can't really be excited. The intention, the heart's not in the right place, I should say.
Okay.
I have to agree with everything she said. You know, it's that I'm not a fan of the later on. What I do like in all those films is that the villain always does come back to get the heroine. But again, in the Scream films, that doesn't happen for Sidney Prescott. In each film, I keep praying for her to die, and she just won't.
She just won't die. Well, I mean, give me a couple of examples of films where you feel like female characters have been portrayed the right way in horror films. And it could be from any era. I'm just curious as to what you think.
Oof.
They've been treated the right way? Is that what you said?
Well, that you feel like the characterization of women in the films have been more accurate.
Well, the trouble with that question is that there's no wrong way, I guess, to portray a woman, because no matter what you do, there's going to always be one woman out there who does represent that type of person. You'll never be wrong, I guess is the way to say it.
Right.
I look less for women that are being portrayed correctly, quote unquote, and ones that are being portrayed interestingly. I love Angela Bettis in May because it's so different. You feel for her, but at the same time, like, is she the bad guy, or is she a victim of her surroundings and her upbringing? And it makes you question, you know, a lot of different things. I really think that Lucky McKee's filmography as a whole, he makes very interesting female characters, and that's what I appreciate, is that nobody...
They're not very formulaic characters.
I believe we are now joined by Tiffany Shepis. Tiffany, is that you?
It's me. How's it going?
Hey,
good.
Tiffany.
How are you?
Hello.
Good. Who's all on here?
So, we have DJ Colangelo. We have Rebekah Herzberg. And, of course, we have the Dead Man from Horror Society. And, of course, we are now joined by actress and producer Tiffany Shepis. Tiffany, how have you been?
I am great. How are you guys?
I'm good.
Good.
It's been a long time since I've talked to you.
The baby is good. My baby is fat. He's a fat little bruiser.
It's been a while since I've talked to you.
It has been. It's been a minute. I think it's been since your birthday last year when you were all crazy drunk ordering pizza.
Pretty much.
See, the better stories keep coming out. I'm
they do. No, Tiffany and I actually met in person, but that year I was pregnant. I was like, damn it, the one year we could have had the party together finally. Sorry, I can't drink.
We could have had the party of a lifetime, and then I went and got pregnant.
I know.
So,
I was like,
you know, now that all the baby making's done, and it's just a crazy party Horror Society free for all.
So come to Texas Frightmare this weekend. So go ahead, Mike.
Let me ask you. You know, you have well over 100 films to your credit. You have a ton of stuff that you've done in the genre. Kind of tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry and how the horror genre pretty much became your thing.
Well, I mean, yes, there's probably over 100 titles in there.
Oh, there's well over 100 titles.
And well over
Who's
probably
counting?
75 ones that you could just line the bottom of the trash with. just garbage. But they all can't be gems, man. They all can. You gotta kind of work your way up there, and then you kind of climb back down a little bit, and then you go back up, and then you climb back down. I started not wanting to make movies. I was just a kid living in Manhattan, and I was a big fan of lots of crazy, like a lot of us, like USA Up All Night kind of stuff, trauma stuff.
I miss USA Up All Night. Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah.
So do I.
Saturday,
it's just not the. They need to bring that back, and they used to have
the
Saturday
same.
Nightmares on USA. Oh.
It's not the
They
same
need to
anymore.
bring that back and have me host it. Is what
I would be down with that. I mean, because Commander USA is no longer with us, unfortunately. So I think
Who
the next
watches
best
USA,
thing.
honestly? Does anybody watch
What's
USA
that?
anymore? Does anybody
I
watch USA anymore?
I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so I do watch.
Burn Notice.
Oh yeah, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so yeah.
Oh, Burn Notice.
So Rebekah, you don't know what you're talking about. Everyone watches USA.
That's right.
Burn Notice, I guess, but
I'm watching USA right now.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, I was a kid living in New York, and there was we had like these actors papers called Backstage, and some kids at my school were reading them because they were all like Broadway kids. And there was an ad in there for Romeo and Juliet. They were casting for extras. And I was like, oh, my God, I know those dudes. And so I cut school, and I went to the audition, and blah, blah, blah. They ended up giving me a speaking part, like a real part in the movie. And,
the role of Peter, actually.
The role of Peter, the bodyguard to the Capulet family, which is hilarious because I totally lied and said that I was 18, even though I wouldn't have had to have been 18 anyway. It's not like the part had nudity or anything. But I lied and said I was 18. And then I started to freak out, going, oh, shit, I'm going to get caught. So I called them, and I was like, listen, I was so excited that I got the part that I lied. I didn't lie. I was like, I forgot that I'm not 18. I'm 17. I was lying again because I was only like 16. It was a total asshole move.
It's okay. We all have.
But because of – what's that?
It's okay. Almost every woman has lied about her age. I'm sorry. Most women have.
You usually don't lie up. Usually we lie down. But anyways, but the fans of the genre, obviously, as you guys know, they're rabid, and if they like you, they'll keep you working. And I was such a big fan myself that I would just geek out going to the conventions and going to film festivals, like, holy crap, like, I'm here with, Doug Bradley, holy shit, this is so cool, and fuck, I'm in a movie with Kane Hodder, this is awesome. And thankfully, people liked my kind of loser geekiness, and I kept working, obviously, to over 100 movies.
Well, now, you've definitely done a lot of work with trauma. In fact, you were one of the Tromettes. You were bulimia and dementia on Tromaville Cafe back in '97. But, you were also Daddy's Little Girl in a Sergeant Kabuki Man public service announcement. I mean, I'm a big Troma fan, so I've been following your work from the beginning. That's hilarious. You did Romeo and Juliet. Then you were the beautiful head-crushing witness in Terror Firmer, which was, I think, another great movie by them. And then you were the beautiful interpretive dancer.
And another great performance by me.
And then you were the beautiful interpretive dancer in Citizen Toxie, The Toxic Avenger 4. Now, with everything that's involved with women in horror, I know Lloyd is very much about breaking the trends, breaking the molds. What is it like working with Lloyd Kaufman, and how do you feel his treatment of female characters in trauma films rates?
I think if you watch trauma movies, and if you're a fan at all, you realize that it's a no hold bar situation with trauma. I mean, everybody is made fun of equally. Everybody is treated completely equal down the line, whether you're female, male, disabled, white, black, red, yellow, it doesn't matter. Everybody's treated the same, and if anything, actually, I think women are put like a notch higher. And if his movies are anything like his life, if anyone's ever met Lloyd Kaufman in person, and you've met his wife Patty, you see who runs the show. And
right.
She's the smartest, coolest, most down woman you'll have ever met or ever meet in your life. And you go, man, like, how does she put up with this maniac, Mm-hmm. And I really think that his attraction to such a strong woman like that is the reason why a lot of women in his films are these kind of strong heroine, like kick-ass bitches.
Well, it's also
and they
Jewish.
may just be hot, but, that's the way it is. What's that?
Well, it's also Jewish, which I love,
Bravo.
I love fellow Jews, sorry.
What's that?
I said I love my fellow Jews, sorry. Had to give that a shout.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And so do we. We got to, God bless the Jews and Women in Horror Month.
Well, since you said Women in Horror Month, I wanted to ask you, how did you become involved with Women in Horror Month?
When you guys sent me an email
Tiffany,
and said, "Hey, Colin."
Tiffany was just for me like a personal, like, you know, like I've met her and I've kind of become acquainted with her, and she really has no association with Women in Horror Month, but, you know, we are discussing women in horror, and she's one of the favorites, you know, and I adore her. She's real sweet, and so naturally I had to ask her to come back on once again while I'm sober.
Well, okay.
Well, thank you. No, I mean, if I can follow that up, it's not something that I've ever actively been involved in. Like, I know you guys do a lot of events out in LA. I don't live in LA anymore, and you know, in different places at cons and stuff. But I mean, certainly, you know, I'm a woman, and I want to see women do cool things, and I'm certainly pro cool chicks. So anything supporting cool chicks, why not?
Now, do you feel as strongly, because you've worked in, you know, a lot of independent, and you've worked on a little bit of higher budgeted films as well. Do you feel like there's a divide in the way that men and women are, you know, the way that they get their positions in film? You know, do you feel like women are I don't want to say looked down upon, because I really feel like that's the wrong phrase, but why do you feel like more women are passed over for that?
I mean, me personally, I haven't had any of those experiences, and the women that I do know are doing quite well. I mean, especially in the genre. I mean, look at Jace Anderson, Adam and Jace. You know, very well respected writers, and she's a woman. You know, what Rebekah does, what Heidi Martinuzzi does. I mean, I think there's a lot of women doing exactly what they want to do, and there's really nothing holding them back. Now, but like I said, I have yet to ever experience something where, you know, somebody was picked over, just, you know, looked over because they were a woman and a man was chosen. So I can't tell you.
Right.
But I imagine, you know, those things do happen still. It's a shitty world. Nothing's equal, right?
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about being a producer? Do you like producing more than acting, or do you feel like it's just a natural progression of you know, what you're doing?
I think no. I mean, I don't prefer one over the other. I think it's just a natural progression when you've been doing something for so long, you acquire a certain amount of contacts, and those certain amount of contacts really just go hand in hand with producing. It's, you know, oh, wow, you guys are in need of a cinematographer. I got you a great one. Oh, wow, you guys are in need of, you know, a distributor in Germany. I know 4. You guys are in need of this, and it's really just packaging and putting everybody together. And so while I was doing that for a few of my movies, after the fact, just to be helpful and just to make sure these things, certain, you know, especially if it was a movie that I liked, would see like the light of day and have a decent form of distribution. I was like, well, shit, you know, I should kind of just do this. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and like Rebekah said, you know, we have a family and kids. So when I'm not shooting crazy movies covered in blood, you know, I've got family stuff going on. So the producing side really does take up all of your time, so it has to be something I'm really, really excited about.
And I respect you that you do that, because there are a lot of people out there that just, you know, they shoot out all these kids and they're gone. They go and film, like a lot of A-list actors do that. They're gone for like a month at a time from their kids, and I'm not here to judge them, but just from my standpoint, I just have a hard time leaving my baby boy. Like, my daughter's 10, so if I left for 2 weeks, like, she's just all into her video games, like, whatever, Mom, I don't care. But she's going through puberty. But as far as my son, you know, he's not even 2 yet. So for me, it's really hard to get out there. Like, right now I'm working on my first film, and it's really hard, you know. He's never even spent a night away from me. So I always appreciate it when I see other hardworking parents out there that are really just, you know, they they take care of their children, and they try to balance. It's hard balancing the two, but I'm glad that you are as well, Tiffany.
Thanks. You too. I mean, I certainly, being good family people, it's, I think, first and foremost. But I'll give you a little bit of what worked for me is my feeling on it was, all right, here's how my job is. And my job sometimes makes me have to leave for 2 weeks, 3 weeks even. But I could be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, then I can be home with the money that I made being gone for 2 or 3 weeks for 3 months. And I can go to every school play, and I can go to every play date, and I can be there every night and every morning and every afternoon, and I could take you everywhere. Whereas so many regular working parents, which, lots of friends of ours are like this, and it's very difficult, have an ordinary, a regular 9-to-5 job, and they are home with their children. They never have to leave them, but at the same time, they're up just to give them breakfast, and they get home in time just to give them a bath and put them to bed. And maybe if you're lucky, without running errands, you get in a few hours on the weekend. So there's really kind of pluses and minuses to both sides of it, and it's obviously whatever can work best for you.
Well, no, it's funny that you mentioned that with the 2 weeks. My kid finally got to the point. With the 2 weeks, a lot of men do that. Like it works differently for me. I'm still trying to get my son away. I'm just attached to him, But there are a lot of women that they do work, 2 weeks and they're home for a long time, but that works as well for men too. There are a lot of men that have jobs out there to where they're gone for 2 or 3 weeks and they're home for several months, and so a lot of men they look down upon women that go and work for a few weeks, and they're like, well, aren't the women supposed to stay home with the kids?
I think they just do that. It's like my husband, because he has to then take care of the baby. Goes, shit, this is what it's like all day long. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with missing me. It has nothing to do with, oh my gosh, where are you going? It has nothing to do with anything other than, crap, really, he never sleeps.
My Chris is just like, oh, he's shit. I can't change shitty diapers. I'm going to gag. But go ahead, Mike.
Well, no, I mean that's an interesting aspect. When I first got into working in the industry myself, I had a 3-year-old daughter at the time, and she would come out with me on set. She was actually a zombie in my first film I worked on.
Aww.
So I got to bring her into the industry early, so she understands that when Daddy comes home covered in blood some nights, there's nothing wrong with Daddy. It's always nice to teach him that at an early age. But I found I was the exception to the rule. A lot of the sets that I've been on, I'm the only person that has children. And I find it interesting sometimes that as a man, there are times that I've had to back out of projects or something because, being divorced, time with my child is very important to me as well. And I find it in a reverse way, I get looked down upon sometimes as a man because I put my child before I do my career sometimes. And, of course, and, I've seen a lot of that on the other end where a lot of females get flack for that in the industry. You would figure in today's society people would be more understanding of the norm, but why do you feel it is that way? And even in today's standards, why are parents kind of looked at differently when it comes to working in the industry?
I think just because people are assholes. That's really the only way to put it. I mean,
everyone has their own standards.
Well, and almost always, I mean, you have to be able to find that balance. And that balance is really, really hard. You guys know it. It's a difficult place to find. And it's a difficult thing on both sides. It's hard to turn down jobs, because you need to go to the school recital, that you could really just tape. But at the same time, it's like, gosh, you really, really, really need to be there and you want to be there. And, at the same time, I'm scatterbrained because you know why? I just thought about a recital, and I'm like, oh, geez, I got to remember to put that on the calendar so I don't.
Well, at least we reminded you about the recital. That's important.
She's playing Mama Bear in the school play. I think finding that balance is really, really difficult. And I think often when you find people that don't understand it, it's jealousy. It's jealousy. I mean, in my opinion, having a career, having a family, all of that, I mean, dude, that's cake. Yes. It's hands down.
Some people can do both. A lot of people frown upon women working and having a career, and if you can juggle both, it's like, there must be something wrong with you. You probably neglect your kids, and it's just like, not really. I've juggled.
Or how can you be working
hard
on these kinds of films?
Yeah.
I mean, I had a couple of people, give me flack because I had my 4-year-old daughter with blood on her running around like a zombie in a film, but, she enjoyed it, and, I don't see it as being a bad parent. I've always felt like, if you can teach your child that something is, the monster movies aren't scary, it's not real, I feel like that's an advantage you have going in.
My 10-year-old daughter, because she's, terrified. I have a cardboard stand-up of, as we talked about before, I have my own VHS closet. It's like a massive closet with all my VHS tapes, and I have a Freddy, stand cut out, and we used to just pull it out for, and she would walk past it and get scared, and it's like, you're 10, stop. He's not real. He's not real. His autograph is right there on our wall on the stairs. Come on, And
well, maybe
so
that's it. Maybe she's okay with Freddie, but she just doesn't like Robert Englund. Maybe that
could be it.
Maybe if you just cover up the autograph, she'd be like, sweet. You never know. She could have a thing against the English.
She likes Pokemon.
We are now being joined, I believe, by Rebekah McKendry. Rebekah, is that you?
That's me. Hey, guys, how you doing?
We are getting a full house. For everyone that's listening, just so we can keep track of everything, we have Women in Horror Month Ambassador Rebekah Herzberg. We have blog writer VJ Colangelo. We have actress and producer Tiffany Shepis. And we are now joined by Fangoria writer and if I remember this correctly,
she's marketing director.
At Fangoria, and she's also a producer, director, and writer. Rebekah McKendry.
And
Rebekah, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I'm honored.
No problem.
You have missed out on the amazing conversations about parenting.
Yeah,
parenting has been a discussion.
Just had a child too.
Oh, well, this is totally my forte. I just took my daughter to the pediatrician this afternoon.
Oh no, what's wrong with her?
Oh, nothing. It was an 11-month checkup. She's perfectly fine.
Oh, good job. Go, Mom.
Well, Rebekah, tell us how you came to your position at Fangoria magazine.
Just kind of, spit and hard work. I originally started out teaching film, and I decided at one point that I wanted to go back and work on my master's and doctorate and focus it in horror because I'd always been more fascinated by horror films than any other genre of film. And when I was teaching it, I was at a school that was very much like, if it's not neo-Italian classical realism, it's crap. And I definitely didn't adhere to that. And so I decided I was going to go back and get a whole ton of graduate degrees focused in horror. And while I was in New York, I was finishing up my second master's in teaching at Hunter College, and I ended up meeting Mike Gingold at the New York City Horror Film Festival. I was working there part-time, helping out Mike, and kind of doing some programming stuff, and I ended up meeting some of the Mike Hine before he passed away. Was amazing.
Oh, I thought you meant Gingold, sorry.
Gingold was the one I met there. So while I was working for Mike Hine, I met. Yeah. Oh, Gingold's amazing. So while I was working there, I met Gingold, and he was very encouraging, and he was like, come by the office anytime. We have lots of opportunities for people like you, and was always really encouraging. And I emailed him a couple weeks later and was like, the festival's ended. I'm looking for something now. And before I knew it, I was working doing research for the radio show, and that was almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
Now, how do you
so I've been here for a while now.
you have a lot of background within your education, and I'm just like reading it, and I'm just like, you know, I feel so like jealous because for me, all I have a degree in is sticking people with needles and serving their drinks, and so.
I always say, though,
that's awesome.
Education does not necessarily
people with needles, like a phlebotomist.
Yeah, no, I was in the medical field for a while.
Oh,
and,
very cool.
And
well,
with that,
I think that's super
juggling
cool,
bartending.
Rebecca.
I know, but no, it sucked. I hate it. But anyway, yours is much cooler than mine.
Well, really, like the amount of education never dictates how smart a person is. It just dictates, you know, how much student loan they're willing to accrue. So that's kind of
paying my student loan off. Just so you know.
I am going to be paying on mine till I am well in the grave. So, yeah, so that's about all education proves that, and I like sitting in class.
So what are your thoughts on what Women in Horror Month is doing to help promote women in the industry?
Women in Horror Month, I think, has been a wonderful vehicle because it lured a lot of people out onto the internet. And I was really lucky to be there kind of for the beginning of it when Hannah, you know, I was one of the people that she contacted and was like, hey, I've got this idea, let's, you know, for like a Women in Horror Month. And at the time I had just kind of moved into a full-time position at Fango. And so I was able to see it kind of from its grassroots beginning to where it is now. And it's just been phenomenal because what I did see is with that first burst of Women in Horror a couple of years ago, just the amount of female horror fans that kind of crawled out onto the blogs and, you know, started doing their own blogs and postings and things like that. That's what I think has been the best thing is it kind of united a group of women and said, it's okay to like horror. Come on, there's a bunch of us.
Real quick, a message from Hannah, who could not be here, and she wanted to be here last week and this week. She also just had a birthday, and you know, she also, like, she announced, like, on the Gash that we used to do, she announced Women in Horror Month, like, 5 years ago. I guess it was 5 years ago. And but yeah, anyway, this is a quick message from Hannah. Sorry, she wanted to say this. She sends her love to everyone who has been working so hard and dedicated into making this year amazing. Stay tuned for an announcement on Valentine's Day, by the way, from her. And if you show you bleed, send for the blood drive. If you show you bleed, send pictures, videos, etc., and you'll get an I Bleed for Women in Horror Month pin. And then she called me her Jewish sister. But yeah, it's also, she just had a birthday too. So happy birthday, Hannah. We love you, but go ahead. Sorry.
Now, you know what I think is kind of interesting? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say what I think is kind of interesting about the Women in Horror Month thing, just like Rebecca was just saying, that it does bring women together. I mean, the thought of the three of us from very different parts of the industry all on your podcast tonight together, chatting about just all things. You know, whether it be parenting, whether it be horror movies, whether it be women's roles in the genre, I think that's really cool. I think it's bringing. I don't know. I think that's really fascinating. I think it's really fascinating the fact that you know you got a woman in Texas. Are you in? Where are you out of, Rebecca? Are you in
Los Angeles. I'm in
LA.
Texas.
I'm in Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona. How is it in Arizona?
They're dirty.
I'm sorry.
Dry.
That was an awesome answer.
Cracking. But I think any type of dare I say club or group that can bring people together that maybe have never met, maybe that have never even heard of one another, I think is really cool, and it just brings a lot of awareness to what women do in the genre and different aspects of it, different parts of it. I think it's pretty nifty.
Now, I would like all of you to answer this one, and you know, please feel free to go as long as you want or as colorful as you want on this. One of the things that I've noticed reading posts, you know, I fully support the Women in Horror Month and everything that all of you do. in the industry. But I've noticed a lot of times that there has been a lot of public backlash when it comes to the Women in Horror Month. What are your guys' thoughts on the backlash, and at the root of it all, what do you feel like the real crux of the problem is? Why are there so many critics of what you guys are trying to do?
I don't think there are that many critics. I think it's a small group of people, and I think they're all mental. I'm sorry. That's my honest truth. That there have been a few people who have had a thoughtful and, intricate discussion about it, and I praise them. If there's anybody that disagrees with the Women Horror Month organization, we're mostly just like, you don't have to agree with us. It's fine. That's cool, dude. Like, we're not going to hate you for that. But then there are some that really, I think they're mental and they have serious problems, and they're trying as much as they can to bring us down and slander our names all over, but they're mental. Anyway, go to somebody else.
I guess maybe I'm just, I think I may be just in the dirty desert. I'm out of the loop, I guess, or I just really don't give a shit to read anybody else's posts but mine. I never noticed.
Best answer ever.
I never noticed anybody's hate or love one way or the other. But what I have noticed, and this I could slightly agree with. On occasion, I've read posts like, why do we need a Women in Horror Month? We should just appreciate women all the time. Agree. Kind of like Valentine's Day. Shouldn't we always just love the person we're with? Why does there have to be a specific day that we say, hey, I think you're great? And the same thing with Women in Horror Month. Why does there have to be a month that makes us say, hey, I think you're awesome and women are kicking ass? And I think that I have read a few of those kind of posts, but they haven't necessarily been hateful. They've been more on the praising side, saying, hey, I think, the women that are writing blogs, the women that are writing scripts, the women that are acting in horror movies, producing, directing, et cetera, are killing it. And, we don't need to just do it during the month of February, And so that's all I've noticed. And then I have noticed there's been one or two real kind of maniac people that,
mental.
They're the ones that think my movie sucks too, and who listens to them?
Psycho hose bees. That's what I call them.
Well, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. I got to agree with Tiffany. Yeah, I got to agree with Tiffany on it that, that's one of the things that I've always agreed with, that people, will question why women need a month in horror. And on that note, part of me says, yeah, I agree. It should just be accepted that, women are horror fans like anybody else. And this part of me, I began to understand it a little bit more when I got to L.A. and saw, but this is a much larger issue, saw women in general in the film industry. It's like it makes up less than 5%.
But that's actually what Cleve talked about last episode. Christina Cleve opened up about her, how women are usually, just they have a lot harder time there in Hollywood. But
yeah, and that's the only thing that I've ever seen. I've never had, problems as a female fan. I've never had anybody say, oh, well, we question your knowledge because you're a female. And so in that regard, I do understand why some people might be like, why do you need a whole month? Or, why is this even necessary? And again, the problem that I do see is a much larger area, not just women in horror, but women aren't, a lot of times the filmmaking doesn't present itself quite as easily, or at least I don't even know how the system works, but I just know that when I'm interviewing directors or, looking at the people who are currently working in the industry, I see women, and that's an actual statistic, it's less than 5%. And that just seems a little bit off kilter to me. But again, that's a bigger issue.
I get where you are coming from.
Oh,
sorry, I don't know which Rebecca you're talking to. We're both... K too.
But what I was going to ask, because when I was really young and I was in New York and I took lots of film classes because I wanted to know everything. I wanted, even though I had no interest in being a director or a writer, I would take classes every which place I could. And I was the minority. It was me and 75 dudes. And now you, being a teacher, is that still the same? Because if it is, then we are always going to see less women up for these jobs, and the ratio is just going to be fucked.
Yeah, it is still the same in most of the classes that I saw. I mean, it definitely wasn't like 5% versus 95%, but it was definitely still skewed to men heavy. And I don't know why that is, but I mean, it's something that's worth a study at some point.
But I mean, if that is the case, then I would just say is that maybe it's not necessarily that women aren't getting these jobs because the man's holding them down. It's just that the odds, there's just not as many of them out there. Most women, I believe, at least when, and now, you know, I'm going to date myself, but years and years ago when I was taking classes in New York, all the women wanted to be actresses. And that was it. And that sounds really ridiculous just to say, but it was the case. You know, guys were in the film classes with me, and you know, there was if you thought there was a female that wanted to be a gaffer or a grip, like it almost didn't exist. And now I don't know about it today, but
that's a very apt point, and that's something that is definitely a possibility.
I think Mike wants to ask somebody something. I don't know.
Well, I just want to put an interesting spin on it. Now, you know, one of the things that I've done at Horror Society is I have a series entitled Deadly Beauty, Horror Scream Queens and Rising Talents. And I have reached out to probably close to over 200 actresses that have been in genre work. And I think this is a valid point because you talk about the limited numbers, Rebekah. A lot of the girls that I've asked to be a part of the series have told me no, based on the fact that they do not want their names to be pigeonholed in the genre. Now, Tiffany, you know, you've been in the industry for years, and you know, like on your IMDb page, they list you on there as a Princess of Scream. You know, do you feel like that's a part of it too? Do you feel like women that break into the industry are ashamed to work on horror, or you know, they don't? Why is it that we're starting to see more and more of that? Why is horror being looked down upon by a lot of the female actresses and some of the women who are directing these films? You know, oh yeah, I did horror because I could break in, but that's not what I want to do.
To me, I would think it's the exact opposite now, because horror has become mainstream, because the biggest television shows on TV or the most watched are horror-related shows, because these films are making a shit ton of money. I think it's totally changed. I think it's extremely it's in vogue you know, to make horror films. When I was making horror movies, I had pretty big agents in LA, and they were like, "You're not going on that job. Turn that job down. We want you to make real films." And I'm going, "What are you talking about? Make real movies? Like, I don't have to waitress. Isn't that cool?" They're like, "This is crap." And they were probably right on certain ones, but to me now, I would think. I mean, look at some of the huge names that they're getting, you know, in American Horror Story.
Sure.
All the actors stupid famous now on The Walking Dead. I mean, I think they're coveted roles now, in my opinion. I don't know, you guys different?
Yeah, I would say so as well. I haven't seen actresses, you know, trying to deny their horror roots. I've seen people that if they get picked up on one or two films, they're like, "Hey, I found something that actually works," and really then start playing to the horror crowds. So I definitely see much more of the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Jennifer Aniston,
I'm not trying to call. I'm not going to call out. I'm not going to call out any actresses, but I mean, I've definitely several of the young female actresses that have been in a couple of decently named horror films have been like, "No, I'm going to turn this. You know, I don't want to do this interview because I just don't want to be associated with the industry." You know, and I've asked them, you know, then why do you work on the films if you don't want to talk about it? That was, for the longest time, that was always my complaint about Jamie Lee Curtis. I was a huge fan of her work, and I had tried several times through her agency to to call, do an interview, whether it be an email, podcast, whatever, and they flat out told me, Miss Curtis does not want to talk about that period of career, of that time in her career. And it's only been recently with, the Scream Factory Blu-ray releases of, like, The Fog and the anniversary edition of Halloween that she has started to talk about her work in that style of film. But it looks like we're also now being joined by Heidi Honeycutt. Heidi, are you there?
Oh no, let's all hang up.
No, it's Rebekah. I got disconnected.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought.
Sorry to disappoint y'all. No,
You know what? I have something to say real quick about Jamie Lee Curtis thing. And just because that movie was near and dear to all of our hearts,
sure,
doesn't mean it had to be to her.
No, and you're right about that.
As we all sit there and say, well, she's, fucking hero, and I'd love to have that signature on my box art of Halloween. Like, maybe she thought the fucking movie sucked. Maybe she didn't like horror movies. Maybe she was just using it as a stepping stone. Maybe she thought she looked ugly in it. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, nobody ever knows the experience somebody had.
I can think of at least 5 films that she's done where I thought she did a lot better. I thought she was amazing in Halloween, but people, all these horror films, they never talk about, like, films, even just, like, Trading Places, which was actually, I think, one of the first films that she was actually nude in, or just topless in, but,
right.
No one ever wants to talk about the non-horror films that she's done.
It's just funny, though, that if you look at a lot of big-name actors and actresses today, they would have never gotten their start had they not worked on a horror film.
For sure.
And I definitely think that many of them kind of, will hold that up as, kind of a banner of look where I started and look where I've come to. And there's always going to be a few, like I'm sure Renee Zellweger would love for her Texas Chainsaw days to just, disappear. And that's one, like, she will never speak of it. And I think she actually, at some point, like, purchased rights to the movie so it couldn't be re-released, or at least that was the rumor. But, I mean, I think that a lot of stars who then make it big will, either return to horror at some point or hold it up as a, hey, look what I did.
Right.
With your true roots. Like I've always considered myself, for years, I did stage acting and musicals. I fucking love musicals. And you wouldn't think that because of the fucked up shit that I watch, but... I do like making horror films sometimes. It's fun. Like, I love horror films. But at the same time, I love my musical. So I'm going to go back to theater. Even if it's, like, small-time theater, I do it because I love it. I love it. And so I respect that in
and that's
actors
the most important
that
thing.
Well, I think that a lot of the... Sorry, I have not said anything in, 20 minutes because, I don't have children, and I, am this girl in the Midwest. I don't have anything really cool to talk about. But I think a lot of the going back to the roots and, not wanting to talk about such and such movie is because I think we forget sometimes that for a lot of these actors, these horror films, it's not that they're necessarily anti-horror. It's just that horror takes pride in that we cast a lot of, at the time, no-name performers. A lot of the people in our movies, we're not getting these huge A-list stars to, be in this movie. So we're getting these people who are at the very start of their career, who have not perfected their craft. So I'm sure, you have an Oscar winner, for example, look at Susan Sarandon when she looks back at Rocky Horror. That's not necessarily her strongest performance. It may be living in the hearts of the rest of us, but she has done such more, quote-unquote, technically better work as an actress. So, I'm ashamed of some of the early... Yes, I'm ashamed of some of the early work that I've done that I hope no one ever sees. I'm sure none of us want our, third-grade plays to show up on YouTube someday. Well, this is their third-grade play. Like Rebekah said.
You know what? I do have a question. Now that BJ is on here before, and I had talked to her about this before, and Tiffany, this does not apply to you at all if you're still on the line, but am I still here?
Yeah, everyone's here.
I'm still here.
It hung up a couple of times, so I wanted to make sure. But to BJ and to Rebekah McKendry, they feel like a lot of even female writers, a lot of people, the naysayers, not just from in Horror Month, but anyone that feels like there are female writers out there, they accuse all of us of being, you know, scream queen wannabes, and you just want to get your foot into the door. And even though a lot of us work our asses off on a lot of these articles and everything that we write, you know, like, is there anything you have to say about that? And does it ever, like, really just upset you whenever you hear that?
I know. Here, Rebekah, I'll let you talk.
Well, I mean, I've gone out of my way to kind of work against that because I never wanted to establish myself as an actress in any way. I'm definitely not an actress. And so I take kind of careful consideration when I make choices of, like, what's going to be put out to the public, of how it's being presented. So, like, you know, if I'm doing a press photo shoot, I say no naked shots of me in a pool of blood, just because I don't want to, you know, it's like the standard horror starlet picture. And so I'll say, you know, that's not the image I want to put forth. I never want to.
I need one of those.
Everybody has one of those, and I've had half a dozen. Whenever I get press shots done, they're like, "Ooh, naked in a pool of blood." No, that's so not me.
Those just, I've done like not naked in a pool of blood, but like I did zombie like chainsaw stuff. But like I've done like I'm a huge fan of full nude art. I've done that since I was 19, just because like I like art, you know, and so for that I'm being portrayed as like, oh, well, you're just some hussy that likes it, and it's just, for me, it's just art, you know. It's no way of, you know, but I think a lot of people misinterpret that. Like BJ, like your recent photos, I really dig your modeling photos, and I think you should keep on with it. And
well,
but
thank
still,
you.
a lot of people will look at it just like, oh, well, she's trying to be a model or blah blah blah.
Well, with that whole situation, I mean, film is where my heart lies. That's where I like to analyze and dissect. Mm-hmm. But I'm a theater performer first and foremost. That's what I went to school for. That's what I like to perform in. The only reason I have modeling photos is because my agent said, we don't have any plus size models on our staff. Can you take a few quick pictures? And that's really all it is. But
hell yeah, girl.
I do on the occasion, you know, people will say some pretty unfortunate and vulgar things in regards to either, you know, my appearance or, you know, oh, she's writing, she just wants to be a scream queen or what have you. And that's just not the case. I think a big issue is that with the resurgence, or not the research, but just with the surgence of social media, it is so much easier for people to market themselves. So now what we're getting is tons and tons and tons of actresses doing these naked in a pool of blood shoots and then tweeting it every 45 seconds. So then your timeline is just flooded with naked women in, you know, pools of blood, or half-naked women chased by Michael Myers. And it's, I mean, I get it. You're marketing yourself. You found a way to grab attention and, you know, suck it in. Good for you. You figured out how to work the system. Just because there are a handful of people that are doing it and doing it very loudly does not mean that's what all women are doing. In the same sense that...
Yes, thank you. Some of us are having fun.
And
doing what
we like. I gotta say,
I don't know.
This is the other Rebekah speaking now. But I got to say that, like, regardless of what pictures you put up, I don't care if you're naked, you know, in a pile of chocolate sauce. It makes no difference as long as what you're doing for work is what's important and what carries the value of what you're doing. So who the fuck cares what your pictures look like as long as your articles rock and have great research? So, I mean, that's pretty much how I look at it. I respect who I respect because of the work they put forth, not the fucking pictures they put up on Facebook.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Ladies, we're up against...
Damn it. Now I have to take down all of my pictures.
I'm confused. No, I'm confused. There's two Rebeccas on here. This is Rebekah Herzberg. I'm so confused because there's like two Rebeccas on here, so I feel like who's talking to...
Well, guys, we're right up against the end, but before you go, I want to go around the table to everyone, and I want to say thank you. You know, we love you all at Horse Society. If you ever have any news or anything you need posted, please feel free. We're all friends. Believe it or not, we're all friends on Facebook. So if you ever have any info you need, put it up. But I want to go around the table one more time. I want everyone to, where can we find your work? So, Tiffany, let's start with you. Tiffany Shepis.
Hey, where you can find my work, you know what, you guys can all check out Exit to Hell, which is out right now in Redbox and on Hulu and kind of everywhere else. And it's me and Kane Hodder, and it's a super, super lot of fun. And a bunch of other crazy movies, man. And support Women in Horror Month. I guess I'm going to have to start doing it.
Thank you for coming, Tiffany. I love you. Thank you for coming.
And out in the desert, it's going to be really hard because, it's dry here. But send a van, take my blood, donate it to what you need.
BJ Colangelo.
You can find my work on dayofthewoman.com, and I'm also a contributor to iconsoffright.com, and I'm stupidly active on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is just BJ Colangelo. It's my name, and you can find pretty much anything you ever need to know about me on one of those three formats.
Rebekah McKendry.
You can find my work is in a couple of places. You can find me on Fangoria. I have a blog called The Unseen on FearNet. And I also host a weekly podcast with Elric Kane and Rob Galuzza, Killer POV, which is on Geek Nation. So to find me, I am on Twitter and Facebook, and my new film, Sound, is premiering at the Cinema Mayhem Festival in Los Angeles.
Nice. Tell Rob G that Tiffany misses him dearly.
And our Women in Horror Ambassador, Rebekah Herzberg.
Yeah, I guess you can reach me. It's on Facebook, Twitter, Rebekah Herzberg. I have my blog, Your Friendly Neighborhood Jewish Girl, which everyone seems to love more than the place it at. You can catch my VHS articles on Unleash the Fanboy and several other places and in print. And look out for my next film, Honeycutt.
Very nice. Ladies, thank you for all coming on. You're always welcome to come on. I'd love to have you all again together or separately for interviews on the show. And I'll make sure that the archive version of this gets to you this week.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Horror Society.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we had Women in Horror Ambassador Rebekah Herzberg. We had the popular blogger BJ Colangelo come on from Day of the Woman. We had Rebekah McKendry from Fangoria, and we had actress and producer Tiffany Shepis. We're going to play our next Metal Blade Spotlight song from Down Among the Dead Men off the CD Down Among the Dead Men. The title of the song is Bones of Contention. once again, that was Down Among the Dead Men off of the CD, Down Among the Dead Men. The name of the song was Bones of Contention. Now we're going to move on to our Scream Factory Blu-ray DVD review of the evening of Die, Monster Die, starring Boris Karloff, Nick Adams, and Frida Jackson. Just to give you a little bit of background info on the film, Boris Karloff, the greatest horror star of all time, takes center stage in this menagerie of horrors that spins out shock after shock, like a deadly potion bubbling with eerie mansions, secret experiments, and a warning never to look in the basement. This is pure haunted house hokum all of the way. An English scientist entertains a young American visitor, serving up teen terror and a beautiful daughter who is soon torn between her father's evil ways and her need to protect the man she loves from a diabolical end. One of the films later on in Boris Karloff's career, absolutely stunning film, based off of the story The Color Out of Space by H.P. Lovecraft. It's a movie that leaves a lot to your imagination. Nick Adams plays an American scientist who goes out to visit the estate of his fiance's family. On his way there, the townsfolk won't talk about the town, won't tell him how to get there, won't help him. And he finds an area of the countryside that's burned out and a huge crater. The source of all the problems is later revealed to be a radioactive meteorite kept hidden in the basement of his girlfriend's father's house, who has been using the radiation to mutate plants and animal life with horrific consequences. Worse yet, family members may have been affected as well. One of the things that's very striking about the film is just how vibrant the colors and the shots are. They just don't make films like this anymore. Karloff, I felt, was absolutely excellent in this. It's one of the few roles where you actually get to see his true face and get a little bit of the scope of his acting ability. Excuse me. The film, it's an 80-minute film. It was shot back in 1965. Part of AIP. It was an AIP Pictures release, American International Pictures, and it was the first of a double feature bill with Mario Bava's Planet of the Vampires. So I thought people might find that little tidbit interesting. It does not have any special features. It just has the trailer for the film. But with a film this old, I'm not surprised that there isn't much archival footage about it. Most of the principles of the film have passed, so it would be kind of hard to actually do a lot of behind the scenes on the film. However, the video transfer and the sound are absolutely stunning. Like I said, the film looks amazing. The colors are vibrant. Everything about the film just looks amazing. Not one of their more expensive end collector's editions. So at the price that it's going for, it is definitely worth buying, especially if you're a fan of the older films, either of AIP films or a fan of Boris Karloff. And I'm definitely going to have to read the story, The Color Out of Space, to see how it compares to how the movie turned out. I thought a lot of the effects work in the film was nice. The silver paint makeup must have been a pain in the ass. It reminds me of the stories of problems that they had with the makeup of The Wizard of Oz. So, but again, definitely worth checking out. It belts along very nicely. The story is very well written and well driven. So definitely go out and get this. You can pick it up at ScreamFactory.com, Amazon.com, and if you're lucky, your local retailers will have it in the stores. But once again, this evening, we would like to say thank you to everyone involved. I want to say... I definitely want to say thank you to the people from Crinoline Head coming on. Robert, thank you for coming on. I want to say thank you to Tiffany Shepis, BJ Colangelo, Rebekah McKendry, and Rebekah Herzberg from Women in Horror Month for coming on and talking about everything that they do in the industry. And I'd love to have them on all again to talk in more detail about their work. I'd also like to say thank you to Tom Chen, my friend out at Scream Factory, for sending us our copy of Die Monster Die. Also want to say thank you to Exploitation Films for Memory of the Dead. Thank you to Metal Blade for giving us our Down Among the Dead Men to listen to. And to close the evening out, we are going to finish the evening with Destrage. Are You Kidding Me? No is the title of the album, and the song is Destroy, Create, Transform, and Sublimate. And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, rest in peace.